So we just got a fresh knotter rebuild. Dan Carter from Carter Ag came down. I asked him to come down and help me rebuild these knotters on my oldest 340 plus baler. Not because I couldn't do it, but because Dan has been doing this for 30 plus years. And out of all the people that I've ever had work on knotters for me, he's the best one I've ever seen. So, you know, there's basically two people left in the United States that I would allow to touch my balers besides myself. One of them's Dan Carter, the other is Scott Wingsgard. So Dan come down and we both went through these knotters, and I pulled them off the baler and took them down and we rebuilt them on the bench. So I'm gonna go through what we did on these to rebuild them. And then I'm working on the twine fingers right now and the hay dogs up here. I'll go through little bits and pieces on what we're doing there. So let's take a look at these. Basically, what we did is I pulled all these off 3 at a time as an assembly, because these Lincoln grease lines are kind of a son of a bitch to get on and off. So I just pulled that 3 and this 3 as a stack, and just pulled the grease block with it, pulled all of them down at one shot. We rebuilt them on the bench, put them back up. So basically we went through, we re-shimmed everything, we put new gears on, and all new gears, all new pinion shafts, everything like that. Twine discs, twine cleaners, twine tensioners, twine holders, bill hooks, knife arms, everything on these knotters are brand new. So, you know, I want it to make it another 45,000 bales is basically what I'm going for. And the wear on these knotters, they were worn, but they weren't terrible. I was not having mistie issues. This just goes back to that preventative maintenance thing. I know when I get a baler to 40,000 bales, and this goes for any manufacturer, I don't care whose it is, at 40,000, in fact, New Holland is the best for longevity in knotters, and I'll tell you why. Lube. They have the best lube system on the market, bar none. So if you're good at maintenance and you want your balers to last, and you keep your auto lubers full, and you occasionally put a grease gun on the grease blocks to make sure all your grease lines are greasing and there's not a broken grease line or anything like that, you're gonna have excellent luck. So, you know, I think this baler's at like 47,000 bales or something like that. It's got a pile of bales. When I get to 40,000 bales, I know I'm right on the cusp of things starting to wear out on the knotters, and we need to start thinking about rebuilding knotters. So we rebuilt this, so I should be good for another at least 40,000, but you know, if conditions are right, it'll get another 45,000 bales. That's with any manufacturer, okay? There's not another manufacturer that you can say, oh, I put 100,000 bales on, and you know, you might get lucky here and there, but shit's worn out. So basically what we did is we rebuilt all that, and I went through, I'm gonna show you guys something else. On these knotters, you get your travel right here on this peak for your knife arm. And so what we did, there's a little groove where this roller will wear. So I filled that in, and there's another one down here. Filled those in and ground them down flat, and you got to kind of make sure you keep this peak clean so it don't jam up in between here. So we did that, got that all filled back in. As you can see, it's got new bill hooks, new twine discs, new everything like that. So we rebuilt the knotters, and then we went through, and I'm going to show you guys something else. And this is something that on a New Holland baler, take it with a grain of salt. I think on the Massey's they were having trouble, because Dan has gone through and he started converting Massey's to this style. I did it a little bit different than what they were doing it, but both ways work. But basically they are taking the clevis on the end of this rod and converting it to a ball joint like this. I did mine a little bit different. They find the female ball joints and they're still not long enough, so then they weld a couple nuts. I found a male ball joint, cut all the threads off to about right there, and then just welded this female threaded, basically female all thread is what I would call it, on here to get my ball joint. Basically what that does is that takes, if you have any slop, or if the pins wore, the holes wore back there on that push arm that goes across that actuates all your twine fingers, it takes that slop out. And it does take quite a bit out. And I need to get next to a new baler and see just how much, because all my balers have a lot of bales on them, so I can't really give you a good guesstimation. But I can tell you, take this with a grain of salt on a New Holland baler because my clevises and pins were not worn at all. I would put them against a brand new and I would say they would be very, very close, if not the same. Where we found the wear on the New Holland was actually on the twine finger here. And it did have a little bit of slop. But we put this one's all adjusted here, and this is all the slop we get. So, I mean, I'm shaking, but that's it. Okay. So that's pretty good. And absolutely none of it is coming from, like, I'm trying to push the arm. None of it is coming from the ball joint up there. On a pin and clevis, you will have a little bit, but I can tell you mine were not worn. Mine were not warped, worn or anything. All the wear was here. So I'll show you one of my old twine fingers here if I can get out of here without hurting myself. So this is what the clevises look like, and like I said, there's virtually no wear. That hole is, I mean, perfect. The pin, you put a pin in it, you don't get no movement. This is where I had the wear. I don't know if I can do this with one hand, but there's a lot of slop where that arm goes into the twine finger. So we just put new twine fingers on it and we'll deal with it that way. Another thing while we're up here is we noticed, which I've done this before on a lot of my other balers, but we noticed that the hay dogs were starting to get a little bit too low, and a couple of them looked like they were starting to rub the top of the plunger. So what I'm doing here is I'm going in and I'm lifting the hay dog, pinning it up with anything. I got a ratchet under here, and I'm just gonna weld a bead or two right on this plate where it lands, and that'll get it to lift back up like that one there. So where it's coming up, it's protruding through the top of the chamber just a little bit. Where like that one there, it's underneath, it's really close. That one's really close to touching the top of the plunger. So I'm gonna go through and do that and check the side ones as well. It used to be really crucial on the side ones because there wasn't a wear plate underneath, so they'd actually go inside and hang up on the inside of the chamber and then kind of break a little bit out of your chamber when the hay was hitting it, and it was really hard on them. These ones, you don't really have to worry about that. They're built the way they should be built, and they're not gonna fall down inside your chamber like that. So I'm gonna go through and weld all these up anyways to get them lifted off the top of the plunger and go another 45,000 bales with those as well. But that's kind of what we did. So this baler is good to go. It's all rebuilt and everything's looking really, really good on it. Everything looked really good on it. There wasn't wear. I wasn't having mistie issues. I just knew there wasn't excessive wear, I guess I should say, but I wasn't having mistie issues. You know, it's just something I chose to do to keep myself from having downtime issues in the future.